Today we remember the anniversary of the day in 1895 when Oscar Wilde was put in prison. He had been convicted of gross indecency as a gay man and was sentenced to 2 years hard labour. He ended up, after being in a couple of other prisons, in Reading jail, and wrote when he left and went to France, never to come back to England. He wrote The Ballad of Reading Jail, which was published in 1906, and in it he describes an incident which occurred while he was in the prison at Reading, where Charles Wooldridge, a 30-year-old man, was executed for having slit his wife's throat. And he describes the situation, he describes how the other prisoners feel, he describes his reaction, and it leads into a whole poem about justice, although he never talks about right and wrong. It's more about the way in which justice and retribution and punishment are administered. He talks about the situation of being in prison. He talks about looking with a wistful eye upon that little tent of blue which prisoners call the sky, this deprivation of outside air that they experience, and the whole dehumanizing process, the brutalizing of it. He was known not as Oscar Wilde but as C33 because he was in C wing on the third floor in cell number 3, and indeed the poem was initially not claimed by Oscar Wilde. It was claimed by C33, and only later was it made clear that he wrote it. It's a poem which reminds us how desperately brutalizing prison can be, and as a prison chaplain for a while I saw this for myself, and I think we should support and encourage all attempts to help to make prison more of a process that rehabilitates people rather than punishes them, and certainly doesn't dehumanize them as our prison system often does. But the other thing that Oscar Wilde brings home to us is that actually, I suppose to coin someone else's phrase, there but for the grace of God go I, because he saw in the punishment that Charles Wooldridge suffered, his execution for killing his wife, he saw something of himself in Charles Wooldridge. He said, yet each man kills the thing he loves, not just Charles Wooldridge killing his wife, but he, Oscar Wilde, and every person kills the thing he loves. By each let this be heard, some do it with a bitter look, some with a flattering word. The coward does it with a kiss, the brave man with a sword. He just recognises that we're all guilty, to one degree or another, of the kind of thing that led Charles Wooldridge to kill his wife. Not to that extreme, obviously, but the elements of the act are there in all of us. And so there was this understanding that we're all part of the guilt. But there were among us all, he says, who walked with downcast head around the prison yard, and knew that had each got his due, they should have died instead. And so I think today I'm going to be very careful before I criticise anybody or make judgments about people, because if I were in their situation, I may well have done the same thing, because I can't be sure what, with a different background, a different upbringing, different value system built into me as a young person, I can't know what kind of person I would have become. And so I want to treat with generosity and with a sense that they're fellow human beings, people who have committed crime and who do deserve punishment, but don't deserve to be dehumanized.